Hello, it's Jackie Schomburg-Minen. Many of you over the years have asked about my tissue paper collage paper. I make most of it myself, and I use some of it from stores and other, gifts and things like that. Um, I wanted to demonstrate today a super simple method of making these tissue paper sheets. So I use the art tissue from Blick. And these are some Neocolor 1 crayons. So these are not water soluble. And I'm just scribbling. So you can choose your colors. You can do anything you want. And since it's not water soluble, when you use gloss medium or whatever glue you use to affix your collage, this will not smear. If you use the Neocolor 2 crayons, which are water soluble, it will smear, which again isn't necessarily bad, but just know what you want before you choose which crayons you use. Again, some more, just some circles. Any design you want to do is fine. You can see how sheer they are. And once you add gloss medium, the background fades to be almost invisible. That's one reason I love using tissue paper. You can put it over things. It gives a really nice layering effect. And it's very light and airy. And it doesn't hold a lot of visual weight in a mixed media painting. I love stripes. Had to do some stripes. You can see that my Neocolor 1 crayons are getting pretty meager. I don't have a whole lot of selection. Most of my crayons that I have are Neocolor 2. So it's time for me to restock. This is just me randomly writing with a black crayon. And if I was going to use this in a collage, I would probably tear it so that people wouldn't necessarily see the whole sentence. They would just see a slice of it. But if nothing else, I know the sentiment behind it. And you can see how fast this is going. This is sped up a tiny bit, but not much. And it's pretty fast and easy. Nothing yet has been messy. I will be getting into the messy stuff in a little bit. This is just crayons, just tissue paper. And these pieces, they're very simple, but they will have a big impact depending on how you use them. All right, I told you the messy stuff was coming. This is my high flow golden carbon black and a paintbrush. I'm just getting the paintbrush wet. You don't have to spray anything on it. I just didn't have a cup of water nearby. And to make sure that you line your desk with something before you start painting on tissue paper. It will absolutely bleed through, as you'll see in a moment. I put an extra piece of my butcher paper down so you can see it goes right through. Makes sense. Very thin paper. I'm just using a wet wipe to get the wettest parts of the paint thinner and drier so that it doesn't impact every other piece of tissue I have going forward. And I'm just making marks. It doesn't take a ton of brain power. It's really easy to do. Adding paint makes it a little bit messier, but if you have a piece of paper down, it's not even that messy. You have to wash one brush. And with crayons, you can sit in front of the TV if you want and just keep drawing different patterns using different colors. I'm just trying to get different types of stripes. Using the brush sideways just gives it a more rugged, slightly weathered look. Not very smooth at all. Playing with scale is important. You can make tiny circles, make big circles. I made some medium and big ones. You can make giant circles. Butcher paper is also really good for making large painted collage papers. So if you're thinking of making something really large scale, I would definitely recommend large butcher paper, like black butcher paper, coloring on it with white paint, white coloring on it with black or any color you want. This is just letting the black drip down. And while that print I just made is very messy, the nice thing about it is it's very unique. So with collage paper, even if you have something that's pretty ugly to you, like I would never frame that piece of tissue. However, the whatever I end up using that piece for, it will be a one-of-a-kind piece 100% because of how unusual the marks are. This is a stencil that's not really a stencil. I'm using it as a stencil. My son for Christmas received a marble run that had sheets of this really thin wood that you had to punch the pieces out of. And it had a crazy amount of pieces. So I scored some of the outlines to use them as stencils to try them out. I didn't love using it as a stencil. It was effective, but I think I should not have used my brush tipped Pitt pen. This is the other part of a sheet that all the pieces came out of. It's really interesting. I liked all the shapes. Now they're all different, but I think I need to find another use for this because I just don't have the patience to do one stencil at a time. So I'm learning things about myself as I go. I just like finding shapes that are not the usual shape. If left to my own devices, I will just do stripes and circles all day, every day. And there's nothing wrong with that. I certainly still do that all the time. But trying different shapes, even if you're not sure you're going to like them, just try them, see what happens. Now this is a refillable Montana marker that I've put the high flow carbon black paint into. I'm just putting it down and giving it like a quarter twist to make these circles. Or dots, I suppose. Just to fill the page with something. I abandoned the stencils. But I think you can see, even from this one piece of paper, if you add these giant black polka dots to any painting, it's going to make a statement. If you put it on a dark blue, it's going to be a very subtle statement. You'll be able to see the black, but it won't be quite so in your face. You put it on white, it's going to be very in your face in terms of getting lots of attention and as a focal point. And I love having black and white as a focal point. Playing with the brayer. Really just experimenting to see what marks I can make. And as I'm going, the black area, the paint that I've wiped off became more and more interesting to me. And at the end, I actually really liked the design that resulted from it. So using some white, the thing with tissue paper, if you collage it over a dark color, you will see a thin, light veil of the tissue paper itself in the outline, which is fine. If you want it to be invisible, if you put it over something that's a lighter color, excuse me, that will make it, the paper will fade to the background and just the lines or the design will show through. This is me realizing I already did some stripes. Let's make a grid. And I'm intentionally not trying to make anything wild and crazy here because this can be as simple or as complicated as you want it to be. And simple collage paper does not equal simple or elementary artwork necessarily. There's so much room. I'm sure everyone's seen very sophisticated art that's very simple. So make whatever collage paper is interesting to you. And if you don't have time, just make any kind of collage paper. The simple the better. And see what you can make with it as you start working with it as collage paper. I am totally guilty of, in my mind, thinking I need to make something more original than crosses and X's. But probably I'll find some great spot to put these. And if not, okay, I've wasted a quarter of a piece of tissue paper. I don't consider that a waste. So please see this as a reminder that things don't have to be complicated to be successful. Things don't have to be difficult to be worth doing. This is me using a screwdriver tip. You can see that the first blip of paint that comes out is the one that keeps spreading. I wouldn't consider this page particularly successful, but I do like it. I don't know why, but there's something that I'll use this for. I just don't know what it is yet. So instead of dots, these are little tiny dashes, except for where the paint was a big blob. And then it looks like a really swollen piece of rice, like unnaturally swollen. Reminder to pick up the paper every once in a while if you're working on tissue paper, because it will tend to stick if the paint bleeds through it. If you wait too long, you'll have to rip them apart. But it looks a little bit like a list, doesn't it, from far away? Like just some gibberish list of an alien alphabet or something. Then I got impatient of doing all the little dots. I never would have thought a screwdriver would make such clean lines, but it really did a nice job with the high flow paint. Again, there's no rule that says you have to make one sheet entirely the same pattern. Mix it up. If you get tired of something, just switch it up. You don't owe it to anyone to keep doing something you don't want to do. Life's too short. So hopefully you've learned something that you can just be very simple with your collage papers. It doesn't have to be reinventing the wheel. And at the end, I really loved the design that I ended up making on my background kind of mess collection paper. So check out what it looks like in a frame on the wall. I think it looks pretty cool. I might hang it up in my house. Take care, everybody. Have a great day.